Well, Growers Edge, I think, has made us more money by allowing me to survey the local bids that I'm in the area that I want to sell my grain. The local elevators and the ethanol plants know that this information is out there, so they've got to be competitive if they want to get the grain. You know, we've been able to maximize our return on our farm.
Good afternoon, welcome to GrainTV. My name is Cody Bills. Today is August 6th. It's a Thursday. We had the export sales report out this morning, but before we get into the details there, let's turn over to the Grain Hedge trading platform and see where we closed off the day. Corn trading down 3 1/4 cents, soybeans down 9 3/4, and wheat in Chicago here trading up 5 1/4 cents on the day. I think a lot of these price changes had a lot to do with that export sales report, which we're going to get into in a moment. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about the Informa crop production and yield forecast that came out here yesterday. You'll notice compared to the FC Stone and the July USDA current yield projections, Informa came out at 165.4 bushels per acre. That is going to be slightly higher than FC Stone, but definitely lower than the July USDA report. And then soybeans, 45.4 bushels per acre. Again, slightly higher than FC Stone, but a bit lower than the current July estimate. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not in this August 12th report we get any sort of yield revisions here for the for traders in general. So now let's talk a little bit about this export sales report. You'll notice old crop was pretty abysmal except for wheat. Wheat was able to come in here with a beautiful week, 838,000 metric tons sold, above analyst expectations, which range from 400 to 600,000 metric tons, and well above last week's numbers here of 699,000 metric tons sold. So wheat was very positive. I think that explains some of the buying that we saw today. In general, we've noticed wheat has been sliding significantly. It has been the weakest of the grains. Today, I think we got a little bit of a snapback, a reason for some short covering. So that is positive to see. When you look at corn, you look at soybeans, both weak. Corn had the worst week this marketing year with cancellations of 2,700 metric tons. So well off of the expectations, which range from 250 to 450,000 metric tons, and down from last week's sales of 364,000 metric tons. So very, very disappointing corn old crop sales here this week. One of the reasons why we traded lower here today. Soybeans with cancellations of 447,000 metric tons, missing analyst expectations, and really erasing all of last week's sales. So very disappointing there for corn and soybeans. You can see here how this reflected on the November soybean chart. We got up near that 100-day moving average. That moving average was resistance. It acted as resistance 2 times last week. Now it's acted as resistance twice again this week. And I guess my question is, can we get up above it? Well, I think there are some stories in play right now that could get us up above that 100-day moving average, but this export sales week was very disappointing and really added a lot of potency to that resistance level at the 100-day moving average during today's trade session. Take a look at the cumulative corn export sale commitments. You'll notice we are below the pace that's needed to meet USDA expectations. We have booked cumulative export sales of 47.1 million metric tons. That is down from last year when we had 48.7 million metric tons. But again, like I said, we are below the pace needed to meet USDA expectations. And this kind of cancellations during this week, very disappointing. I mean, if we don't pick it up in the coming weeks, we're most likely going to have a slight revision here by the USDA. Now, when you look at soybean sales, you'll notice that we're now right on par with meeting USDA expectations. Perfectly in line right there. Right now, we have a cumulative export sales of 50.6 million metric tons for this time of the year. According to our models, we expect to need 50.6 million metric tons. So for the first time all year long, soybeans is basically right at where it's needed to be. We've been well ahead of pace all year long, and now I am concerned that if we get more weeks like what we've seen here over the last couple weeks, where we may not even meet expectations. So we'll have to see. Of course, the export sales next week we'll be focusing on Thursday. When you look at old crop sales, we did have decent export sales here for soybeans. We came in above last week's numbers. We came in above analyst expectations. So new crop sales were over 1 million metric tons. That was positive to see. But corn, it just wasn't all that great. So corn, old crop and new crop, a little bit disappointing. For new crop, we only booked 277,000 metric tons. When you look at that in terms of the pace that we typically run at for new crop export sales, you'll notice for corn, we're only 58% sold of the 4-year moving average. When you look at soybeans, we picked it up a little bit with this nice weekly export sale. We're now 62% of the 4-year average of typically where we're at. So when you look at it, new crop sales are behind pace. We're going to need to see a pickup in sales pace here. Otherwise, it could get a little bit ugly here a little later on. But in general, right now, there's no major concerns, but keep in mind that we are running behind pace for those new crop sales. When you look at the weather outlook, this is the wild card that I think we could see soybeans get up above that 100-day moving average. You notice the 6 to 10-day outlook looking pretty dry. The 8 to 14-day outlook offering no real relief here. Right now we have 50s. Soybeans are pod setting in terms of 50%. Or over 50% of the crop is setting pods here. And so this is kind of a concern to me. We have dry areas in the northeastern part of Iowa, in the southwestern part of Wisconsin, northern part of Illinois. Those dry areas, if you get this extended amount of dryness, this could impact the crop in a significant manner. And I think this could help keep soybeans right tight against that 100-day moving average, possibly even above it down the line. So we're going to pay close attention to the weather forecast going forward. That wraps up today's show. If you have any questions about what we talked about today, please give the office a call. The number is 877-472-4607. We'll see you here Friday for the weekly wrap-up.